Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to do tools of monetary policy. Monetary policy, remember, is conducted by Bank of Canada. Bank of Canada is the banker to the government. It's our central bank. It's the banker to financial institutions, and it is also the institution that conducts our monetary policy. Now, in order to understand some of the terminologies and the processes that we'll be looking at today, let's just first quickly look at Bank of Canada's balance sheet. This is a simplified balance sheet with assets on the left-hand side and the liabilities of Bank of Canada on the right-hand side. As you can see, the liabilities of Bank of Canada are currency in circulation, so that is currency held by public outside of banks, and reserves of the banking system. So these are also referred to as our monetary base, and these are the monetary liabilities of Bank of Canada. Now note, on the left hand side I have assets, and the main asset that Bank of Canada holds is your securities. These are mostly Government of Canada bonds issued by the federal government. And then the second most important type of asset that Bank of Canada holds is loans to financial institutions. This is how Bank of Canada earns money. When it gives a loan or advance to a financial institution, it charges them an interest rate, and that interest rate in Canada is referred to as the bank rate. So liabilities are our currency and reserves, and assets are our securities and loans to financial institutions. Do not confuse your monetary base with money supply. Our narrowest definition of money supply was M1+, which was currency plus deposits. And these reserves are not deposits. Reserves are the currency or the cash that banks keep with themselves. It could be their vault cash or the amount that they hold at Bank of Canada in the form of settlement balances. So these reserves are also referred to as settlement balance accounts held at Bank of Canada by a particular financial institution. The monetary policy that you come across in your principles of macro is simply that money supply is a multiplier of our monetary base. Bank of Canada adjusts the monetary base through open market operations, and in doing so, it affects the money supply. Now, we know Bank of Canada no longer targets the monetary base or the level of M1, M2, etc. They instead target our interest rate, some benchmark interest rate in the economy. We will be now focusing today more on how this interest rate target is announced and what is the framework through which this interest rate target is maintained. Tools of monetary policy are your open market operations, settlement balances management, and Bank of Canada advances. So these are simply loans to financial institutions. Open market operations are your purchase and sale of securities. So when Bank of Canada purchases securities, it increases the money supply. When it sells securities, it will reduce the money supply. But in this case, these open market operations will be conducted in order to maintain our target for the overnight interest rate. Bank of Canada also targets the level of settlement balances. This is roughly around $50 million. So today we're going to focus on how the operating band for the overnight rate, reinforced by banks standing liquidity facilities, and the target level of settlement balances will make up the framework within which the Bank of Canada implements our monetary policy. That takes us to the Large Value Transfer System, or the LVTS. The Large Value Transfer System currently has 16 members besides Bank of Canada. So these would be your big banks like Toronto Dominion Bank, Bank of Nova Scotia, Bank of Montreal, Royal Bank of Canada, and others. LVTS is an electronic real-time net settlement network. It is designed to provide immediate finality and settlement to time-critical transactions. It was put in place in order to eliminate systemic risk. Systemic risk is the risk to the entire payment system due to the inability of one financial institution to fulfill its payment obligations. The LVTS is set up in a way that it eliminates this systemic risk. And how does it do that? It allows participants to make a payment only if they have a positive settlement balances in their accounts with Bank of Canada. So remember, the part of your reserves are your settlement balance accounts at Bank of Canada. You're only allowed to make a payment if you have posted collateral such as treasury bills and bonds, or if you have explicit lines of credit with other LVTS participants. Now, we also have a non-LVTS transactions. These are referred to as your ACSS transactions. These are primarily your paper-based payment items such as checks. These items are cleared directly through our ACSS, which is Automated Clearing Settlement System. The ACSS aggregates interbank payments and calculates the net amounts to be transferred from and to each participant's settlement account with the Bank of Canada. Canada. The direct clearers are a subset of LVTS participants who participate directly in the ACSS. Our instrument of monetary policy is the overnight interest rate. Bank of Canada has 8 fixed dates throughout the year on which it announces its stance on monetary policy. Your benchmark interest rate in our economy, and it will end up affecting all other interest rates in our economy. Overnight interest rate is the interest rate at which participants borrow and lend overnight funds to each other in the money market. Bank of Canada is going to signal its monetary policy stance by announcing a target for this overnight interest rate. The policy rate is that set target, that is the target announced by Bank of Canada, which is the main instrument that the bank is using to conduct monetary policy. To understand the different terminologies over here, remember the reference rate is the current level of the overnight interest rate, and the policy rate is the target at which we want it to be at. So the closer is the reference rate to the policy rate, the more successful has been our stance of monetary policy. The Bank of Canada's objective is to keep the overnight rate within a band of 50 basis points, that is 0.5%. In response to the subprime financial crisis in 2009, this band was reduced to only 25 basis points or 1/4%. And in March of 2020, because of the major downturn that the economy took as a result of the global COVID pandemic, we saw Bank of Canada again slashing the band rate to only 0.5 percentage point or 25 basis points when they reduced the target to 0.25%. But in normal circumstances, the band is of 50 basis points. The upper limit of the band is your bank rate or IB. This is the interest rate at which Bank of Canada gives loans to financial institutions. And the lower limit of the band is our deposit rate or IER. This is the interest rate that Bank of Canada pays to banks which are holding deposits or settlement balances at Bank of Canada. You can see the operating band in this diagram. We have the upper limit of the band at IB, which is our bank rate, and the deposit rate or IER is equal to the bank rate minus 50 basis points or 0.5%. The target for the overnight interest rate is at the midpoint of this band, which would be your bank rate minus 25 basis points. At the end of banking day, each LVTS participant must bring its settlement balances with the bank close to zero. The Bank of Canada therefore stands ready with standing liquidity facilities to lend or borrow from a participant to bring their settlement balances to zero at the end of the banking day. This initiative is entirely on the side of the LVTS participant. Participants may use the bank's lending facility to obtain overnight liquidity in case of a shortage at the bank rate, or the participant may use the deposit facility to make deposits in case of excess liquidity. And in this case, they will be earning the deposit rate, which is bank rate minus 50 basis points. The overnight rate is determined in the market for settlement balances or the market for reserves. We will have a demand supply diagram for the market for reserves in which we will see how this overnight interest rate is determined, and the equilibrium in the market will be where quantity demanded for reserves will exactly equal quantity supplied of reserves. To understand the demand curve for reserves, let's go back to our understanding of what reserves are. Reserves can be split into two types, desired reserves and excess reserves. Desired reserves are based on our desired reserve to deposit ratio. So you will always hold some reserves against the deposits that you're holding as a bank. And these are held by banks to manage their liquidity requirement. There is no requirement to hold a certain fraction of reserves against deposits in Canada, but banks will always hold some desired reserves for their liquidity drains. Any reserves that the bank keeps over and above their desired reserves are their excess reserves. So I can rewrite excess reserves as reserves minus desired reserves. Now these excess reserves are held in order to ensure against unexpected deposit withdrawals. So if banks are keeping some excess reserves, there's an opportunity cost of holding these excess reserves. Remember, if I have excess reserves, I can lend them out and earn the overnight rate on them. However, if I hold on to them, I'll be earning the deposit rate given to me by Bank of Canada. The difference between these two is the opportunity cost of holding these excess reserves. If your overnight interest rate is higher than the deposit rate, this difference is now positive, and you can see as the overnight interest rate goes down, the gap is becoming smaller, and therefore the opportunity cost of holding these reserves is going down. As the opportunity cost goes down, my quantity demanded for holding holding these reserves is going to go up, and therefore we see a negative relationship between these two. However, note if the overnight interest rate is equal to or lower than our deposit rate, now the opportunity cost of holding these reserves is zero, and with zero opportunity cost or even negative opportunity cost, if it was to fall below IER, I as a bank am now willing to hold these excess reserves indefinitely. So my demand curve for reserves becomes perfectly elastic at the deposit rate, which is your bank rate minus 50 basis points under normal circumstances. So this is our shape of the demand curve. It's downward sloping as long as the overnight rate is above the deposit rate. However, as soon as the overnight rate is equal to or below the deposit rate, our demand curve for reserves becomes perfectly elastic at the deposit rate. Banks will now hold on to excess reserves indefinitely and not lend them out because they are now getting a lower interest rate in the market, and therefore they'd rather just hold on to these excess reserves at Bank of Canada. In order to understand the relationship between quantity supplied of reserves and the overnight interest rate, let's split up our reserves on the supply side as borrowed reserves and non-borrowed reserves. Borrowed reserves are reserves which are in our financial system as a result of Bank of Canada advances. When a central bank lends money, these reserves are now in the financial system. Non-borrowed reserves are not dependent upon Bank of Canada advances. However, these are actually dependent upon open market operations. So, open market purchase, if Bank of Canada is buying bonds from financial institutions, will increase non-borrowed reserves. Open market sale, if Bank of Canada is selling bonds to financial institutions, will reduce non-borrowed reserves. So remember, buying and selling of securities or bonds in general is referred to as our open market operations. Having understood our borrowed reserves and non-borrowed reserves, now let's look at the cost of borrowing from Bank of Canada. Cost of borrowing from the Bank of Canada is our bank rate, whereas cost of borrowing from the market is your overnight interest rate. So borrowing from Bank of Canada is essentially a substitute for borrowing from other banks. If your overnight interest rate is below the bank rate, financial institutions will simply not borrow from Bank of Canada. They would rather borrow from other financial institutions. In this case, our borrowed reserves are now zero and our total reserves are simply our non-borrowed reserves. And supply curve will be vertical at this level of non-borrowed reserves determined by our Bank of Canada. However, if our bank rate is lower than the overnight interest rate, now it's cheaper to borrow from Bank of Canada rather than other banks. And given Bank of Canada's standing liquidity facilities, I as a financial institution can potentially borrow unlimited amounts from the central bank and then lend them out and earn an even higher interest rate in the funds market. So in this case, your supply of reserves will become perfectly elastic at the bank rate. Putting these two together, we have reserves on the x-axis, overnight rate on the y-axis. My supply curve of reserves is vertical at this level of non-borrowed reserves, which is predetermined by Bank of Canada. And this is vertical as long as my overnight rate is lower than the bank rate. So this is our first part over here. However, if my overnight rate is equal to or higher than the bank rate, remember banks are borrowing now more and more from the central bank or the Bank of Canada and re-lending it at IOR. So our supply curve of reserves becomes perfectly elastic at the bank rate. So your supply curve has these two extreme cases. It's either vertical or it's perfectly elastic at the bank rate. Whereas our demand curve was downward sloping and becomes perfectly elastic at the deposit rate. Bringing the two curves together, we have equilibrium in the market where supply and demand curve intersect, which is our point 1 on this diagram. And as you can see, quantity supplied of reserves is exactly equal to quantity demanded of reserves. Intersection is happening in the vertical section. So in the vertical section, your total supply of reserves is just your non-borrowed reserves. There's no borrowing from Bank of Canada, so borrowed reserves over here are zero. If you have a situation where the current overnight rate is higher than the equilibrium rate, you have an excess supply of funds and the excess supply pushes the interest rate down and we move towards our overnight interest rate. If the overnight interest rate is currently in a situation where you have an excess demand for funds, so this excess demand will push the overnight interest rate up, and as the interest rate goes up, excess demand is eliminated and we are back to our equilibrium overnight rate. Now next we'll see how the operating procedures limit the fluctuations in the overnight interest rate. If the equilibrium overnight rate is at the overnight rate of I star and there is a huge unexpected increase in the demand for reserves. Now, because of the increase, the demand curve is shifting to the right and it is pushing the interest rate up. However, note that the intersection now is happening on the horizontal section of the reserve supply curve. So regardless of how big this increase is, the maximum that the overnight interest rate can go up to is our bank rate. It cannot rise above that. Likewise, if we have a large unexpected decrease in the demand for reserves, causing our demand curve to shift to the left, now the intersection is happening on the horizontal section or the perfectly elastic section of our demand curve for reserves. And this limits the decline in our overnight rate to the deposit rate. So you can see fluctuations in demand for reserves because of the operating procedures in place will limit the fluctuations in the overnight interest rate within this band. The overnight interest rate will never go outside of these two limits. So you can look at any of these cases, and for each one of them you can think about how will it affect our borrowed reserves, non-borrowed reserves, and the overnight interest rate. So I can do the first two, and I would suggest doing the remaining two on your own. In the first one, we had shifts from deposits into currency. Now remember, banks hold desired reserves, which are a fraction of their deposits. If people are not holding as much deposits but rather holding currency or cash, deposits are going down. Now, as deposits are going down with the same fraction of desired reserves are also going to go down. However, also note that whenever there's a deposit withdrawal, the financial institution is also losing its reserves. So the level of non-borrowed reserves is going down. So that tells you non-borrowed reserves are going to be reduced. Supply curve of reserves is shifting to the left. Desired reserves are just a fraction of the total deposits. So if deposit withdrawal happens, we lose $100. Reserves also decrease by $100. But the decrease in desired reserves is only a fraction of those deposits. So let's say I was holding $10 against a deposit of $100. Now my desired reserves have reduced by $10. So a smaller decrease in the demand curve and a bigger impact on your supply curve for reserves. Note I have made a bigger shift for my supply curve. And overall we can see with the two curves decreasing, overnight interest rate is being pushed up. We can do another example from the ones listed above, in which we had an open market purchase. Now, when Bank of Canada buys bonds, it increases the reserves of our financial institutions. And remember, these are not reserves as a result of our advances from Bank of Canada. So these are our non-borrowed reserves going up. So on our diagram, the supply curve will shift to the right. Overnight interest rate is being pushed down. The goal of Bank of Canada's current monetary policy is to keep the inflation rate within a range of 1 to 3%, with the midpoint of the inflation target range of 2% being the most desirable outcome. Now, in this figure, you can see what has happened to the Canadian inflation rate since February 26, 1991. That is when the governor of the Bank of Canada and our finance minister jointly announced a series of declining inflation targets. And since about 96, our inflation target has been roughly around 2%. And you can see that we have been quite successful in maintaining our inflation rate within this band or close to our average of 2%. However, we did see a major decline in the inflation rate in 2009 because of the global financial crisis, and again in 2020 because of the COVID pandemic. But largely you can see Bank of Canada has been quite successful in maintaining and controlling inflation since abandoning its monetary targets in the early 90s and instead using interest rate targets for achieving our monetary policy goals. And now let's see how changes in monetary policy will affect the economy. Whenever we have changes in the overnight interest rate, they will influence all other interest rates, especially the short-term interest rates in our economy and the exchange rate for the Canadian dollar. Typically, whenever the interest rate is going up, with the flexible exchange rate regime that Canada has, our value of the Canadian dollar will also go up. And so E over here is representing my exchange rate for the Canadian dollar. Likewise, if interest rate is going down, value of the Canadian dollar or the exchange rate for the Canadian dollar will also go down. So appreciation with the higher nominal interest rate and depreciation with the lower nominal interest rate target. In chapter 6, we saw that bonds of varying maturities are simply the average of the current and expectation of some short-term bond. So if that benchmark short-term interest rate is your overnight interest rate and the target for that is announced, and once this target changes, you can see expectations hypothesis is telling you that the average for all of these other bonds with varying maturities is also going to either go up or go down along with the change in this particular interest rate. And these monetary conditions are determined by your short-term interest rates and the value of the Canadian dollar. And once these monetary conditions are affected, they will influence how the economy operates. So let's look at a situation in which we have inflation rate below the target rate, or we are fearing that it might fall below the target rate. So we don't want inflation to be too low. In order to put upward pressure, Bank of Canada will decrease the target for the overnight rate. So once the overnight target is decreased, it will cause other short-term interest rates to go down. It will also cause our exchange rate for the dollar to go down. So the Canadian dollar depreciates. With short-term interest rates going down and exchange rate going down, it causes our aggregate demand to go up. So consumption is rising, investment is rising, and because of the depreciation of the dollar, our net exports are increasing. And these three together are now pushing our aggregate demand up. And economy is stimulated. With increases in aggregate demand, there is pressure on prices to go up, and with prices going up, the inflation rate will start to go up. So we are easing monetary conditions whenever we have inflation falling or expected to fall below our target level. Vice versa, we have over here a situation when inflation is too high or we're expecting it to rise above our target level. So how does Bank of Canada ensure that inflation does not rise above its target level? It will now tighten monetary conditions. So in order to tighten monetary conditions, they will raise the overnight interest rate target today. So that is your contractionary monetary policy. By raising the overnight interest rate target, short-term and long-term interest rates are driven up. And along with that, we know that the exchange rate for the Canadian dollar will appreciate. So value of the Canadian dollar goes up. These two together will now cause our consumption and investment to decline because cost of borrowing has gone up. And with the value of the Canadian dollar going up, our net exports are going to go down because Canadian goods are becoming more expensive for foreigners. Together, these are causing your aggregate demand to go down. And aggregate demand decreases, causes downward pressure on our prices, and with downward pressure in our prices, we see inflation falling below its current level, and we therefore bring it closer to its desired level. In this chapter so far, we looked at what is the policy instrument, what is the market in which it is determined, and how Bank of Canada overall tightens or eases monetary conditions to achieve its objective regarding macroeconomic stability. In the next part of the chapter, we'll be specifically looking at how Bank of Canada uses the tools of monetary policy to manage the target for the overnight interest rate. So what are the daily operations of Bank of Canada in trying to keep the overnight interest rate at its target level?